The night does not end in the Congo. It exhales. A thin band of silvery light appears on the horizon, barely strong enough to separate the sky from the forest. Beneath it, the canopy stretches without limit, an ocean of green so vast it swallows distance itself. The first light does not illuminate the jungle. It filters into it. It passes through layer after layer of leaves, dissolving into shadow before reaching the ground. The mist rises like the breath of a sleeping giant. The air is dense, saturated, heavy with the memory of yesterday's rain. Drops cling to lianas as thick as a man's arm. Towering trees fade into the vapor. Somewhere far below, water drips in a slow, patient rhythm, the pulse of a forest that never fully rests. Then the sound arrives. Not wind, not storm. A low, rolling thunder that seems to move beneath the very earth. It reverberates through bark and bone. It is the distant pounding of hooves, the rumble of something large forcing its way through the vegetation. In the Congo, thunder does not always come from the clouds. The camera glides forward, brushing above the endless canopy. From this height, the forest appears peaceful, serene, almost gentle. But the illusion fractures as the light grows stronger. Insects ignite the air with vibration. A layered symphony erupts, buzzing, clicking, trilling, 1,000 invisible wings trembling in humid suspension. Distant calls of primates cut through the mist. One cry rises above the rest, sharp, electric, defiant. A chimpanzee announces the morning, its voice echoing through invisible valleys of green. Below, movement. A branch trembles. Leaves scatter. A crowned eagle bursts from its perch, wings spreading wide as it drops through the canopy. For a moment, gravity possesses it. Then the air slides beneath those enormous feathers, and it surges forward, silent, deliberate, sovereign of the sky between the trees. On the forest floor, light barely survives. Here, shadows rule. A ripple disturbs the reflective surface of a narrow river channel. Without warning, a crocodile slips from the muddy bank into the dark water. No splash, no spectacle, only disappearance. The surface stills as if nothing had ever existed beneath it. Elsewhere, a line of army ants advances with mechanical precision. They flow over roots, around stones, through fallen leaves. Every insect in their path scatters or is consumed. In this jungle, even the smallest lives march with unstoppable force. The mist begins to clear. Shapes emerge, towering trunks, strangler figs wrapped like coiled serpents around their hosts. Curtains of lianas hanging motionless in the rising heat. This is not a forest. It is a living engine, a cathedral of growth and decay. A kingdom where life competes with ferocity and adapts with astonishing elegance. Every sound is a warning, every silence a calculation. The sun finally crosses the horizon, pouring molten gold over the upper canopy. Vapor rises in gleaming columns. The jungle is fully awake now, not gently, but with purpose. Welcome to the Congo. Here, survival is not a moment. It is a constant. The Congo grants no mercy. It grants opportunity. Every breath taken beneath this canopy is borrowed. Every step is a calculation. Here, predator and prey are not enemies in a simple story of pursuit and escape. They are partners in a brutal dance rehearsed over millions of years. One sharpens the other. One survives because the other exists. In a narrow beam of filtered sunlight, a pair of eyes appears between curtains of leaves. Unblinking, golden flecked with black. Muscles ripple beneath spotted fur as a leopard lowers its body closer to the forest floor. Each paw lands without sound, The very air seems to part to let it pass. It stops. It listens. The jungle listens back. A troop of colobus monkeys moves high in the canopy, their black and white coats flashing like torn banners among the branches. A juvenile strays too far from the center. The leopard's pupils narrow. Distance is measured, wind direction tested, timing evaluated. The jungle holds its breath, but survival is negotiation. The monkeys sense something, a flicker of movement below. Alarm calls erupt. Bodies scatter in an explosion of limbs and leaves. The leopard launches, claws tearing bark as it climbs upward. For a heartbeat, predator and prey share the same branch, suspended between success and failure. Then gravity decides. The leopard falls back to the earth. The monkeys vanish into the foliage. There is no meal today. The forest resets. It always does. Not far away, tension boils at ground level. A herd of forest buffalo stands shoulder to shoulder in a rare clearing carved by elephants. Massive heads sway slowly. Horns curve outward like sharpened crescents. Flies gather along damp flanks where sweat darkens the rough skin. One bull lifts its head, its nostrils flare. Across the clearing, another male steps forward. Muscles tighten. Hooves grind against the mud. There is no immediate violence, only pressure. Territory is not taken recklessly. It is tested, measured in posture, in patience, in the willingness to escalate. A sudden clash breaks the stillness. Horn against horn with a crack that echoes through the trees. The ground trembles as 2 tons of living force collide. Dust rises, birds scatter. After seconds that feel longer, one bull yields half a step. Half a step is enough. Dominance here determines access to water, to grass, to mates. Reproduction is the ultimate prize. Every confrontation writes the future of the herd. And in the undergrowth, another hunter waits. A python lies coiled in perfect stillness, its patterned skin indistinguishable from fallen leaves. Heat-sensitive pits along its jaw read the invisible language of warmth. A small antelope approaches to drink from a shaded stream. It lowers its head, muscles relax. The strike is instantaneous, a blur of scales. A loop of muscle tightens with terrifying precision. There is no roar, no spectacle, only compression. The negotiation ends. Food, territory, reproduction. These are the currencies of the Congo. Nothing moves without paying with one of them. This jungle is not chaos. It is a battlefield governed by ancient laws, where hesitation can mean extinction and success lasts only until the next encounter. To understand the danger, we must understand the forest itself. The battlefield we call the Congo is not a single forest. It is a vast breathing system known as the Congo Basin, a green empire stretching across Central Africa. It extends across 6 nations: the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the Republic of the Congo, Gabon, Cameroon, Central African Republic, and Equatorial Guinea. Together, they host the 2nd largest tropical rainforest on Earth, surpassed only by the Amazon. From above, its scale defies comprehension. Nearly 2 million square kilometers of layered green, stitched together by rivers that shine like veins beneath the skin. At its heart flows the Congo River, a force of water so immense it is surpassed only by the Amazon in discharge. It does not simply pass through the forest, it shapes it, feeds it, floods it. In some regions, the river swells and spills outward, transforming dry ground into temporary wetlands. Entire forests stand knee-deep in water for months, their trunks reflected in still, tea-colored pools. These are flooded forests, where fish glide among tree roots and insects lay eggs on submerged bark. Elsewhere, swamps stretch endlessly, their ground saturated and unstable. Every step sinks slightly, releasing the scent of decomposition. Sweet, thick, almost intoxicating. Fallen leaves do not fully decay here, they ferment, Fungi bloom in strange and luminous forms. Moss wraps everything in a soft green silence. The canopy itself forms a ceiling nearly 40 meters above the ground. Sunlight struggles to penetrate it. What little succeeds fractures into thin beams that illuminate only fragments of the forest floor. Light is a precious resource here, rationed, contested, stolen. Plants climb aggressively toward it. Lianas twist around trunks in a slow-motion race upward. Strangler figs begin their lives high in the branches, then send roots downward, wrapping their host tree in ever-tightening spirals until it collapses. Even trees compete with ruthless efficiency. Rain defines the rhythm of life. The basin receives between 1,500 and 2,000 millimeters of rain each year. Storms arrive without warning, soaking the forest within minutes. Humidity rarely drops below suffocating levels. The air presses against the skin, dense enough to feel almost liquid. Sweat does not evaporate, it remains. For animals, this means constant adaptation. Sound travels differently in humid air, scent lingers longer. Tracks fade quickly in saturated soil. Vision is limited. Hearing and smell become essential tools. The Congo Basin is not an open savanna. It is enclosure, compression, a world defined by vertical layers, forest floor, understory, canopy, emergent giants that pierce above everything else. Each layer hosts its own communities, its own wars, its own alliances. The scale here is deceptive. From the sky, it appears uniform. On the ground, it is a maze of shadow and moisture, a labyrinth where distance is measured in effort, not in kilometers. And within this green cathedral of humidity and darkness, life has been shaped by isolation, competition, and relentless pressure. In this green cathedral, evolution has taken strange paths. Deep within the shaded corridors of the rainforest moves a silent architect, the African forest elephant. Smaller than its savanna cousin, more compact with straighter tusks and rounded ears, it seems almost built for this enclosed world. But size in the Congo is not about spectacle. It is about maneuverability. These elephants push through dense vegetation with surprising grace, their massive bodies sliding between trunks where larger animals would fail. A matriarch leads the way. Her skin is darkened with layers of reddish-brown mud, drying in cracked patterns along her flanks. Every step is deliberate. She stops often, testing the air with her trunk, reading chemical messages invisible to human senses. Behind her, juveniles stay close, their smaller trunks brushing her legs in silent reassurance. The forest resists them. Lianas pull at their sides, saplings bend and then snap. Leaves burst outward as they move forward. The sound is not delicate, it is force applied patiently. Over years, over decades, these movements carve paths through what would otherwise be impenetrable growth. But their greatest mark on the landscape is not the path, it is the bay. In rare openings within the forest, where mineral-rich soil is exposed, elephants gather in wide clearings carved by their own persistence. They dig with tusks and trunks, extracting nutrients from the earth. Mud churns beneath their weight. Water collects in shallow pools. These bays become social arenas, meeting places where individuals from distant groups converge. Calves splash awkwardly in mud baths, rolling onto their sides, coating their skin with cooling layers that protect against insects. Adults stand in groups, trunks briefly entwining in greeting. Bonds are reaffirmed, alliances maintained, knowledge passed silently from matriarch to daughter. These elephants are not merely consumers of the forest, they are gardeners. As they feed, they consume enormous quantities of fruit. Seeds pass through their digestive systems unharmed, carried for kilometers before being deposited in nutrient-rich dung. Some tree species depend almost entirely on elephants for their dispersal. Without them, the composition of the forest would change dramatically. Where an elephant walks, diversity follows. Their social structure reflects deep intelligence. Matriarchal groups operate on memory of water sources, of seasonal fruit trees, of danger zones. Experience is survival capital. A young elephant learns not only where to feed, but when to move, when to retreat, when to stand firm. And yet even giants remain cautious. A sudden crack in the undergrowth freezes the herd. Ears flare slightly, trunks rise. For a moment, 5 tons of muscle become motionless. The jungle tests everyone equally. When the tension dissolves, they continue forward, disappearing into foliage that swallows them completely. In their wake, light filters into newly opened spaces. Smaller plants take root. Antelope wander into the clearings. Predators study the edges. Where elephants open space, others follow. In a clearing softened by filtered light, a massive figure sits in deliberate stillness, the western lowland gorilla. It does not need to move to command attention. The silver sheen across its back marks it as dominant, a mature male at the center of his family group. Muscles fold over bone like living armor. Its hands, broad and scarred, rest calmly against the forest floor. Around it, life unfolds in quieter rhythms. A female plucks fruit from a low branch, turning it carefully before bringing it to her mouth. The silverback imitates the action, thick fingers delicately peeling the skin to reveal the soft pulp beneath. Despite all its strength, its feeding is slow, almost contemplative. They consume fallen fruit, tender shoots, young leaves, a diet that requires constant movement but rarely violence. An infant climbs onto his shoulder, pulling at the coarse hair. The silverback tolerates it with dignified patience. The infant loses its grip and falls into the leaf litter, only to climb again with determined squeaks. Nearby, the juveniles wrestle in exaggerated play, mock charges that end in sudden collapses of grunts resembling laughter. It is easy, in these moments, to forget the coiled potential within that enormous body. The silverback lifts his head slightly. His dark eyes focus on something beyond the group. The air changes, subtle, almost imperceptible. A younger male stands at the edge of the forest, not yet fully silvered but powerful enough to pose a question. There is no immediate clash. Dominance among gorillas is usually measured in posture before strength. The silverback rises slowly to his full height. The movement alone alters the gravity of the clearing. His chest expands. A low rumble vibrates outward, not a roar, but a warning charged with authority. The young male holds his position one beat too long. Eye contact lingers. Then comes the ritual. The silverback beats his chest, a rapid drumming amplified by the hollow resonance of his massive torso. The sound echoes among the trees like distant thunder. Leaves tremble. The juveniles freeze mid-play. The young male shifts his weight. He lowers his gaze. It is enough. The conflict dissolves before blood is spilled. Power here is not constant aggression. It is stability. The true role of the silverback is not conquest but protection. Protecting the group from predators, from rival males, from internal fragmentation. His authority ensures access to food, safety for the young, and cohesion within the troop. As the tension fades, feeding resumes. The silverback sinks back to the ground, pulling another stem with quiet efficiency. A juvenile presses against his side, seeking warmth. In this dense world of shadow and humidity, strength is expressed in silence, more often than in fury. But not all primates impose authority through size. Clumsy imitations, manipulating twigs too thick or too short. Learning here is not automatic. It is taught, copied, refined. Tool use in chimpanzees is culture, knowledge transmitted across generations, shaped by the local environment. In another corner of the forest, a male uses a stone to crack hard-shelled nuts, striking with rhythmic precision. The sound carries softly through the undergrowth. Impact, pause, impact, impact. A technique perfected through repetition, strength guided by thought. As the afternoon heat intensifies, the troop settles briefly. Individuals groom one another, parting fur with careful fingers to remove parasites and debris. Grooming is hygiene, yes, but more than that, it is diplomacy. Each contact reinforces trust. Each shared moment reduces the likelihood of future aggression. Suddenly, a distant pant-hoot echoes through the canopy. All heads lift. It is not one of their own. The dominant male stands, lips slightly retracted to show teeth in a silent signal. The group closes ranks. The juveniles are guided toward the center. Another pant-hoot answers, now closer. Branches sway in the distance. For several minutes, tension vibrates through the trees. Then, as abruptly as it began, the rival calls fade. The forest exhales. Chimpanzees do not rely on brute strength alone. They calculate risk. They weigh probabilities. They form alliances, not out of sentiment, but necessity. Their survival is rooted in social intelligence, the ability to predict behavior, manipulate outcomes, cooperate when it benefits them, and compete when necessary. In this stratified world of leaves and light, strategy can outweigh size. Communication can determine dominance. Memory can prevent bloodshed. And as the troop disperses once more into the canopy, searching for fruiting trees and listening for threats, their silhouettes dissolve into the shadow. Above them, silent wings rule. As daylight fades and the jungle exhales its heat into the darkness, another presence begins to move, almost invisible, almost imagined. The African leopard does not announce itself. It does not need to. Solitary by nature, it walks alone through territories stitched by scent marks and memory. There are no packs here, no coordinated groups. A leopard survives through silence, through patience, becoming indistinguishable from shadow. In the late afternoon, dappled light fractures across the forest floor. Gold breaks through the leaves, shattering the leopard's spotted coat into fragments of light and darkness. Camouflage here is not just coloration, it is geometry. The irregular pattern mirrors the chaotic interplay of light and leaves, dissolving muscle into abstraction. It lowers its body, shoulders moving fluidly beneath the skin. Infrared vision reveals what daylight conceals. Through the cold lens of night vision, the jungle glows in muted tones. Heat signatures bloom against a darker world. A duiker grazes near a fallen log, unaware that it shines like a beacon in the predator's eyes. The leopard advances centimeter by centimeter. Each paw is placed with surgical care. The whiskers tilt forward. The ears rotate independently, triangulating faint sounds. A twig snapping, a hoof shifting. Its tail hangs low, stabilizing balance. As it glides between roots and saplings, the distance closes. Then, without warning, stillness becomes explosion. Muscles release in a single coiled discharge. The leopard covers meters in seconds, jaws opening just before impact. A flash of pale belly, a muffled cry. The bite lands at the throat, precise and practiced, cutting air and blood in one calculated motion. The struggle is violent but brief. Moments later, the forest returns to silence. Only the panting of breath and the drag of weight over leaves betray what occurred. The leopard grips its prey and drags it toward a low branch. Even in dense jungle, height offers safety. Meat raised from the ground is meat protected from scavengers. It pauses halfway up the trunk, muscles trembling under the load. Then it ascends, disappearing into a network of branches. By dawn, little will remain but scattered skin and bone. Leopards are adaptable hunters. They take what the forest provides. Small antelope, monkeys, even reptiles when necessary. Their territories overlap cautiously. When two adults cross paths, avoidance is preferred. An injury in this world is a death sentence. Survival demands restraint as much as aggression. In daylight, you can pass within meters of one and never know it. It will see you. It will assess distance, risk, possibility, and then melt back into the foliage as if the forest itself had swallowed it. Here, power lies in invisibility, but some hunters move without legs. Not all predators announce themselves with bared teeth and tensed muscles. Some wait, coiled among fallen leaves, almost indistinguishable from the forest floor, lies the African rock python, one of the largest snakes on the continent. In the dim understory of the Congo, size is irrelevant if it can be concealed, and concealment is its greatest weapon. The python does not pursue, it calculates. Its patterned skin mirrors the mottled chaos of bark, ground, and filtered light. Hours may pass without a single visible movement, but stillness does not mean inactivity. Along its upper lip are heat-sensitive pits, biological infrared sensors capable of detecting the faint thermal signature of warm-blooded prey. In a world where sight is often limited by foliage and shadow, heat becomes a map. A small antelope approaches a narrow stream. Its hooves sink slightly into the damp earth. It lowers its head to drink. The python senses it before it sees it. The muscles begin to tense, not in motion, but in preparation. Each coil is pre-positioned, arranged like springs under tension. The strike, when it comes, is not dramatic, it is mechanical. A blur of scaled movement erupts from the leaf litter, jaws opening impossibly wide as curved teeth hook into flesh. The first coil wraps in less than a second. Constriction is not about crushing bones, as myth often claims. It is interruption. Each time the prey exhales, the coils tighten fractionally, preventing the next breath. Blood flow slows. The heart strains. Within minutes, resistance fades. The forest watches without judgment. Slowly and methodically, the python begins the process of consumption. Its jaws dislocate, ligaments stretch to accommodate prey far larger than its own head. Progress is incremental. Skin stretches, muscles ripple. This single meal can sustain it for weeks, but the Congo hosts more than giants. Perched on a low branch, nearly invisible against a curtain of green, rests a forest viper. Often a species such as the gaboon viper or the rhinoceros viper, masters of camouflage in their own right. Their bodies are shorter, thicker, with geometric patterns that fragment their silhouette. Unlike the python, they rely on venom. Complex biochemical cocktails evolved to immobilize prey with astonishing speed. A rodent runs along the branch. The viper's tongue flicks, tasting the air. Distance is measured in centimeters. The strike is almost too fast to perceive. Two fangs inject venom in a fraction of a second. The rodent stumbles, collapses, and lies still. Two very different strategies. One relies on muscle and patience, the other on chemistry and precision. Both depend on invisibility. Snakes, here, are not symbols of malice. They are regulators. By controlling rodent populations, they protect seedlings and maintain balance. By serving as prey for larger predators, they connect one layer of the ecosystem to another. In the Congo, even silence has fangs, and where the forest descends and water gathers in shaded channels, prey animals must drink, no matter the risk. Where water gathers, life concentrates. The rivers of the Congo do not only divide the forest, they conceal it. Beneath the coppery surface of a slow-moving channel, a shape glides just below visibility. Two eyes, two nostrils, nothing more. The rest of the body remains submerged, suspended in perfect stillness. The Nile crocodile is older than the forest that surrounds it, a lineage that predates mammals, refined through ages of survival. In the water, it is not an animal. It is an event waiting to happen. Along the muddy bank, a young antelope moves cautiously toward the edge. Its ears twitch at every sound. The surface appears calm. Dragonflies skim the water. Ripples spread lazily. The crocodile measures the distance without moving. The ambush is geometry, timing, angle, explosive force. When the moment aligns, the river detonates. A violent surge of muscle and armored tail propels the predator upward. Jaws snap shut with pressure capable of crushing bone. Water erupts skyward. For a heartbeat, prey and predator are suspended in chaos. Then gravity drags everything back down. The crocodile spins, the infamous death roll, rotating with terrifying torque to disorient and drown. Within seconds, the surface smooths again. Only widening circles hint at what lies beneath. But the crocodile is not the only titan of these waters. In mid-current, a massive back breaks the surface. Grey-pink skin glistens in the heat. The hippopotamus exhales in a thunderous blast, spraying mist into the air. Another head emerges beside it, then another. Despite their rounded forms and seemingly placid expressions, hippopotamuses are among the most territorially aggressive mammals in Africa. In the water, they gather in loose groups, each dominated by a mature male. Their authority is not imposed through stealth, but through display. Two males approach too closely. The water churns as they rise from beneath the surface, jaws wide open to display tusk-like incisors. Their mouths gape to impossible angles, a display as much as a warning. A roar reverberates through the river, bouncing off the forest walls. One lunges forward. Bodies collide with a crash that sends waves racing toward the banks. They bite, shove, twist. The water turns to white foam with their struggle. This is not predation. It is territory, access to females, control of resting space, dominance, secured through brute force. After minutes of violent pushing, one male yields, submerges, and retreats downstream. The victor remains, breathing heavily, eyes scanning the perimeter. At night, hippopotamuses leave the water entirely, emerging onto land to graze along the forest edges. Paths carved by their nocturnal migrations create corridors through the vegetation, linking river and jungle in silent routes. Crocodiles rule through invisibility. Hippopotamuses rule through presence. Both shape the ecosystem. Carcasses left by crocodiles feed fish and scavengers. Hippopotamus dung fertilizes aquatic systems, nourishing microscopic life that supports entire food webs. The river is not separate from the forest. It is its bloodstream, pulsing with predators, guarded by giants. And beyond these immense forms, beyond armored scales and fanged jaws, the forest trembles with smaller lives. In the dim corridors between tree trunks, where light rarely lingers and sound dissolves into the humid air, a form moves that seems assembled from different worlds. The okapi is the silent paradox of the Congo. At first glance, it appears unfinished, the deep brown body of a forest antelope. Striped hind legs reminiscent of a zebra, the elongated neck of a giraffe. Yet, it is not a hybrid, it is not a mistake of nature. It is the only living relative of the giraffe, adapted not to open plains, but to shadow and enclosure. For centuries, it eluded scientific recognition, known only to local communities and whispered as myth. Even today, sightings seem improbable. The okapi does not announce itself, it glides. A female moves carefully between buttress roots, her hooves barely disturbing the leaf litter. Her ears rotate constantly, parabolic antennas tuned to the faintest crack or rustle. In a forest where predators depend on surprise, vigilance is survival. She pauses beside a low shrub, extending a long, dark, prehensile tongue, remarkably flexible, capable of curling around leaves and stripping them with precision. Like giraffes, okapis feed selectively, choosing nutrient-rich foliage, shoots, and fallen fruit. In doing so, they influence which plants thrive and which fade. Light fractures across her striped legs. The bold white bands are not decoration. They serve as camouflage, breaking her silhouette into vertical beams of sunlight and guiding calves through dense undergrowth. In the dimness, the stripes mimic shafts of brightness, piercing the shadow. A distant branch snaps. The okapi freezes, her muscles tense, but she does not flee immediately. Movement draws attention. Stillness conceals. Seconds stretch. Somewhere nearby, perhaps a leopard tests the wind, perhaps nothing at all. In the Congo, uncertainty is constant. Satisfied, she resumes her path, each step deliberate, moving through the vegetation as if she belongs to it, which she does. Unlike savanna species that form herds, okapis are largely solitary. Males maintain overlapping territories marked with scent. Females raise their calves alone, hiding them in dense thickets for entire days while they forage. The forest is both nursery and shield. Their existence is completely tied to this ecosystem. They cannot migrate to open plains. They cannot adapt to grasslands. Their survival depends on an intact canopy, an undisturbed understory, a balance that has endured for millennia. In a realm of roaring hippos and chest-beating gorillas, the okapi survives by refusing to be seen. It is neither dominant nor aggressive. It is subtle, measured, quietly persistent. As the mist thickens again with the heat of the afternoon, its silhouette dissolves into the foliage. Only the faint sway of leaves marks its passage. In the Congo, not all power is loud. Some power is ghost-like, present, essential, and almost invisible. In a rare opening carved by elephants and by time, the forest floor widens into a shallow clearing. Mud churns under heavy hooves. The air hangs thick, metallic with the smell of sweat and damp earth. From the tree line emerges a herd of African forest buffalo. Smaller than their savanna relatives, but no less formidable, forest buffalo carry a compact power in muscular bodies. Their coats gleam reddish-brown under filtered light, darker along the spine where moisture clings. The horns spread outward and curve upward, forming hardened crescents designed not for ornament, but for impact. They move as a unit. Calves remain close to the center, protected by a living wall of adults. Every head turns with subtle synchrony. Ears flick, nostrils flare. The clearing may appear peaceful, but tension lives just beneath the surface. A low rumble vibrates from one of the bulls at the edge of the herd. Across the slick stretch of mud, another male steps forward from the shadow. His horns are wider, scarred at the base. Dried mud coats his flanks. He lowers his head slightly, testing the ground with a slow scrape of his hoof. This is not reckless aggression, it is negotiation. The dominant bull shifts his weight, positioning himself between the challenger and the herd. Muscles ripple beneath taut skin. Steam rises faintly from his back in the humid heat. For long seconds neither moves. Then it happens. They charge, horn against horn with a crack that cuts across the clearing like a gunshot. The impact sends shockwaves through their massive bodies. They lock together, necks straining, hooves carving deep furrows into the wet ground. Mud splashes outward. Birds burst from nearby branches. The push is relentless, a test of endurance more than speed. Each bull tries to slip his horns under the other's guard, seeking leverage. A slip could mean a pierced flank, a torn muscle. An injury here is dangerous. Predators wait for weakness. With a final surge, the dominant bull forces his rival back half a step. Half a step becomes two. The challenger breaks contact first, backing away, sides heaving. He does not flee. He turns slowly and merges back into the tree line, his claim unproven. The herd relaxes fractionally. Calves resume tentative steps toward the mineral-rich ground exposed in the clearing. A female lowers her head to graze, but her eyes never stop scanning. Forest buffalo are not easy prey. Even leopards think carefully before testing them. As a group, they can turn defense into offense, charging in coordinated bursts against threats. Their horns are not decorative, they are declarations. These confrontations are not about ego. They determine breeding rights, access to resources, the genetic future of the herd. Strength must be shown, but it must also be sustained. As dusk begins to dim the clearing, the herd closes ranks again. The dominant bull takes his place at the periphery, a sentinel against the advancing shadow. In the Congo, even herbivores carry the memory of violence in the curve of their horns. Beneath the towering giants of the forest, among roots that twist like ancient snakes and leaves that never fully dry, smaller lives move in constant tension. They are the duikers, compact and reserved antelopes belonging to the genus Cephalophus. Their name comes from the Afrikaans word for diver, a fitting title for animals that vanish into vegetation, as if submerging underwater. A blue duiker steps cautiously out from behind a fallen trunk. It barely reaches 1/2 meter in height, with a body no larger than that of a medium-sized dog. Slender legs support a compact torso designed not for running in open spaces, but for sudden bursts through dense undergrowth. Its coat, tinted with bluish-grey or deep reddish tones depending on the species, blends perfectly with filtered light and shadow. It lowers its head to inspect fallen fruit, a fig dropped from the canopy above. Unlike many grazing antelopes of the savanna, duikers are primarily browsers and opportunistic feeders. They consume fruit, leaves, seeds, and occasionally insects. In doing so, they become silent gardeners of the forest floor, dispersing seeds in their droppings, shaping plant communities one bite at a time. But feeding is never relaxed. Its ears flick constantly, each movement decoding layers of forest sound. The crunch of leaf litter carries meaning. A snapped twig can signal catastrophe. Somewhere beyond the trees, a leopard adjusts its position. The duiker stiffens. Muscles coil beneath taut skin. It does not flee immediately. Escape wastes energy and reveals direction. Instead, it waits, testing the air. When movement finally comes, a faint rustle too close for comfort, the duiker explodes forward, diving headfirst into a thicket so dense that even light hesitates to follow. This is survival in miniature. These small antelopes live in territories measured in careful familiarity. They memorize escape routes, corridors of thorns and narrow passages too tight for larger predators. Their world is three-dimensional: forward, sideways, downward, into cover. Reproduction carries its own risk. A hidden fawn lies motionless in a tangle of vines, its spotted coat reflecting flecks of sunlight. For hours, it will not move, even if insects crawl across its skin. Stillness is protection. The mother returns only briefly to nurse before disappearing again, minimizing scent trails that could guide hunters. Life expectancy here is uncertain. Leopards hunt them, pythons ambush them, crowned eagles can snatch juveniles from surprising angles. And yet duikers persist, not through dominance, but through adaptation. Their hooves are small and sharp, gripping the damp ground. Their bodies angle downward, reducing silhouette. Their senses are tuned to a frequency of constant caution. As dusk settles and larger herbivores withdraw, duikers reappear, slipping between shadows with practiced grace. The forest floor, which seemed empty moments before, reveals flashes of movement everywhere, small hearts beating fast beneath layers of leaf and vine. In the Congo, Survival is not always about size or strength. Sometimes it is about knowing exactly when to disappear. On the forest floor, beneath the great dramas of tusks and claws, another empire advances, smaller, relentless, and astonishingly organized. They are army ants, often species of the genus Dorylus, sometimes called driver ants. Individually, they are almost insignificant. Together, they become a force that reshapes the forest in waves. A thin, dark line begins to flow across the leaf litter. It widens. Thousands become tens of thousands. Mandibles gleam like tiny sickles. The swarm does not wander randomly. It spreads outward in coordinated fronts, probing every crevice, every hollow log, every patch of soil. Insects scatter. Spiders flee. Anything too slow is overtaken. This is a raid. Army ants do not build permanent nests. Instead, they form living bivouacs, temporary structures made entirely of their own bodies. Workers link legs and mandibles, creating walls and chambers within a writhing mass. The queen remains protected at the center, laying eggs that will replenish the moving army. The swarm pulses forward with collective intelligence. Chemical trails guide movement. Pheromones, invisible scent signals, convey alarm, direction, urgency. No single ant commands the column, and yet order emerges from simple rules repeated millions of times. A beetle tries to escape beneath a curled leaf. It fails. The ants flow over it, dismantling the prey with brutal efficiency. Within minutes, only fragments remain. For the small creatures of the forest, the arrival of army ants is a disaster measured in seconds. But the Congo wastes nothing. Birds perch just ahead of the advancing front, watching carefully. Some species specialize in following army ant swarms, catching insects flushed from their hiding places. Lizards dart along the edges, exploiting the chaos. Even primates sometimes reposition themselves to take advantage of the temporary abundance. Destruction becomes opportunity. The swarm continues for hours, then days, before shifting into a stationary phase. During this time, the bivouac tightens into a dense sphere, sheltering larvae and pupae. When resources dwindle, the colony transforms again, from stillness to movement, and the cycle resumes. Humidity does not hinder them. Rain does not stop them. Their numbers compensate for vulnerability. A single ant can be crushed easily. A million cannot. In the Congo, scale is relative. An elephant reshapes clearings. A leopard shapes fear. Army ants shape the microcosm, regulating insect populations, accelerating decomposition, redistributing nutrients across the forest floor. The ground itself seems to vibrate at their passage. For larger animals, the swarm is a nuisance, biting ankles, climbing fur, forcing temporary retreat. But for the smaller world of beetles, caterpillars, and hidden larvae, it is an extinction event in miniature. This jungle does not rely solely on giants to maintain balance. It depends equally on countless tiny mandibles working in synchronized motion. Beneath every fallen leaf, a civilization is moving. Color in the Congo is rarely accidental. On the damp forest floor, where fallen leaves overlap like layered armor, a flash of impossible brightness interrupts the brown and green monotony. Electric blue, violent orange. Patterns so bold they seem reckless. In tropical forests around the world, poison frogs of the family Dendrobatidae have perfected a strategy known as aposematism, warning coloration. Their vivid hues broadcast a simple message: eat me, and you will regret it. In the Congo Basin, Africa's own chemically defended frogs play similar ecological roles. Although not all are as toxic as their South American relatives, some species possess alkaloids in their skin, defensive compounds derived from the insects they consume. These toxins make them unpalatable and sometimes dangerous to predators. A small frog clings to a broad leaf, made slippery by condensation. Its body is no larger than a thumb, and yet it moves with deliberate confidence. It does not hide from view. It announces itself. A curious bird hops closer, tilting its head. A single snap of the beak. The frog is released almost immediately. The bird shakes its head violently, rubbing its beak against the bark, learning a lesson written in chemistry. Memory is an ally of those with bright colors. But not all the frogs of this forest rely on display. Just centimeters away, another species crouches among decaying leaves, its body patterned in mottled browns and muted greens. The texture of its skin imitates fungi and rot. When it becomes still, it becomes indistinguishable from the forest floor. This is camouflage in its purest form, crypsis. Instead of warning predators, it avoids detection altogether. A snake slides past without noticing it. An insect lands within striking distance. Two strategies. One declares power openly, the other survives by disappearing. Reproduction here is equally intricate. Some frogs deposit eggs in small accumulations of water gathered in the axils of leaves high in the canopy. Others guard clutches on moist ground, their bodies protecting gelatinous spheres from desiccation. In certain species, a parent will carry tadpoles one by one on its back, climbing vertical trunks to deposit them safely in water-filled tree hollows. In a forest where rain is abundant and yet unpredictable in its distribution, even puddles become nurseries. The humidity that saturates the Congo is both gift and constraint. The skin of amphibians must remain moist to function properly. Desiccation is lethal. Constant moisture allows these small bodies to breathe partially through their skin, exchanging gases directly with the air. Their calls rise at dusk, delicate trills and rhythmic chirps weaving through the chorus of insects. Each call is a beacon, guiding potential mates across short but dangerous distances. For a frog no larger than a fragment of leaf, every leap exposes it to predators. And yet they persist, radiant, hidden, fragile and potent. In a world dominated by fangs, claws and coiled muscle, these tiny amphibians demonstrate that survival can be chemical, visual or architectural. In the Congo, even a drop of color can carry the weight of a warning. When darkness settles completely over the Congo, the forest does not sleep. It transforms. Diurnal predators retreat to branches and undergrowth, folding into themselves. In their absence, new eyes open, larger, rounder, built for a world lit only by moonlight, filtered through leaves. A small silhouette launches between branches in a sudden, elastic arc. It lands with perfect balance, its tail extended for stability. The bush baby, also known as a galago, blinks enormous reflective eyes into the night. Its ears rotate independently, scanning the faint scratch of insect legs against bark. The muscles of its hind legs are coiled springs, capable of propelling it several meters in a single leap. It pauses, head tilted, calculating the exact position of prey hidden in the darkness. Then it leaps again. In the air, its fingers spread, grasping a branch no thicker than a thumb. A quick thrust forward, and a beetle disappears between sharp teeth. Bush babies are opportunistic omnivores, insects, fruit, tree gum, adapting their diet to what the night offers. Their calls pierce the darkness, sharp, wavering cries that echo like distant babies. These vocalizations mark territory and maintain contact between pairs. Sound travels differently at night, carrying farther in cooler air. Communication becomes long-range. Below, something heavier moves. A brushing along the forest floor reveals overlapping scales reflecting faint light. The white-bellied pangolin advances with deliberate care, with curved claws like sickles for tearing open termite mounds and ant nests. Unlike the agility of the bush baby, the power of the pangolin lies in its armor. Its body is covered in keratin scales, the same material that forms human nails, arranged in layers like protective plates. When threatened, It does not run. It curls. The muscles contract, the tail wrapping forward, the head securely shielded beneath the scales. For most predators, it becomes an impenetrable ball. Tonight, it is not disturbed. It rises onto its hind legs, sniffing the air with surprising sensitivity. A termite mound stands ahead, hardened by sun and rain. With steady force, the pangolin drives its claws into the structure, opening it. A long, sticky tongue extends, astonishingly long in relation to its body, sweeping insects into its mouth with efficient rhythm. The forest floor hums with invisible movement. Civets patrol narrow paths. Owls pivot silently from high perches. Rodents emerge from their burrows in search of fallen seeds. Night shifts the balance of power. Vision yields to hearing. Color yields to contrast. Speed becomes elasticity. Defense becomes armor. Predators that dominate by day may fail in the dark. Those adapted to night exploit new openings, new vulnerabilities. The Congo operates in layers not only of space, but of time. 24 hours contain multiple ecosystems that alternate their dominance. As mist gathers again near dawn, bush babies retreat to tree hollows, curling into compact forms. Pangolins crawl into hidden burrows. The nocturnal realm dissolves, just as the diurnal prepares to rise. In this forest, life does not stop. It simply changes, shifts. Rain does not simply fall in Central Africa. It reorganizes reality. Across the Congo basin, months of sustained rains swell tributaries into slow inland seas. Forest paths disappear. Clearings become shallow lakes. The ground itself becomes porous and uncertain. What seemed solid in the dry season becomes liquid strategy. Seasonal flooding is not chaos, it is a clock. When rivers overflow, nutrients spread across floodplains like invisible fertilizer. Leaves decompose underwater. Fish move into newly submerged forests to feed on fruits that fall directly from branches into the water. Insects hatch in explosive numbers. Life concentrates vertically in the trees, on floating debris, along the narrow margins where land still exists. Large mammals respond first. Forest elephants alter their routes, choosing higher ground and ancient ridge lines remembered across generations. GPS tracking has shown that their movements are not random. They anticipate flooding patterns with uncanny precision. The forest is mapped in memory. What humans call migration is often simply a seasonal adjustment to hydrology. Lowland gorillas also shift their feeding territories when certain fruiting trees become inaccessible. The edges of swamps, once avoided, become temporary highways. Flooded forest reduces predator visibility, but also limits movement. Every decision becomes a calculation of energy expenditure. Even hoofed animals, bongos, buffalo, duicas, redistribute themselves. Some species cluster along elevated islands of dry ground. Others exploit aquatic plants and grasses exposed by receding waters. Density shifts ripple outward. When herbivores concentrate, predators follow. Crocodiles expand their hunting territories into the forest itself. Fish-eating birds colonize temporary wetlands. Amphibians experience population explosions in newly formed pools. The entire food web shifts like a breathing organism. There is a physics to it. Water increases buoyancy, but decreases traction. It slightly cools the air. It amplifies sound differently. A branch breaking over flooded ground carries farther. Scent trails dilute. Hunting strategies evolve accordingly. Ambush becomes more difficult in some contexts, easier in others. Seasonal flooding also acts as a biological filter. Animals that cannot tolerate prolonged saturation or lack flexible diets struggle. Those that can adapt thrive. Over evolutionary time, This selects for behavioral plasticity, the ability to modify habits without waiting for genetic change. That flexibility is a survival superpower. Humans often imagine tropical rainforests as stable ecosystems. In truth, they are pulsing systems: flood, retreat, abundance, scarcity, concentration, dispersal. The rhythm matters more than the moment. When waters finally recede, they leave behind mineral-rich sediments. New plant growth surges. Herbivores disperse again, predators recalibrate, paths reappear. What seemed drowned becomes fertile. And here is the philosophical twist. Stability in nature is often the product of instability. The forest persists not because conditions remain constant, but because its inhabitants are tuned to change. Flooding is not an interruption, it is the mechanism. If you observe long enough, you see it clearly. Water redraws boundaries, life renegotiates space, and the system resets without a single committee meeting. In the rainforest, geography is seasonal, and migration is simply memory responding to water. In a rainforest, death is not an end, it is redistribution. A giant tree stands for centuries, drawing carbon from the air, water from the soil, sunlight from above. Then lightning strikes, or roots weaken in saturated soil, or termites silently hollow out its core. The trunk falls with a sound like distant thunder. For a moment, it appears as destruction, but the collapse opens a gap in the canopy. Sunlight, a rare currency on the forest floor, pours down in golden streams. Seeds that have waited years for a clearing suddenly germinate. Pioneer plants rise quickly. Insects colonize exposed wood within hours. Fungi spread through the bark like microscopic engineers. Termites dismantle cellulose with chemical precision. Bacteria reduce complex molecules to elemental building blocks. That fallen tree becomes soil, and that soil becomes another forest. This is the nutrient cycle, the continuous transfer of matter through living and non-living components. In rainforests, the soil itself is often surprisingly poor in stored nutrients. Most nutrients are locked within living organisms, which means that when something dies, it must be recycled quickly. Efficiency is survival. Predation is also part of this rhythm. A leopard catches a duiker, vultures descend, beetles arrive. Within days, almost nothing remains. Calcium, nitrogen, phosphorus, all return to circulation. Energy flows in one direction, but matter cycles endlessly. Birth mirrors death in intensity. During fruiting seasons, primates gorge. Forest elephants disperse seeds across kilometers. Amphibians lay eggs in ephemeral pools formed by rain. Insects emerge in synchronized bursts, tied to humidity and temperature. Life synchronizes with environmental cues, like musicians following a conductor no one can see. Even decomposition gives life. Some butterflies lay eggs specifically on rotting fruit. Certain fungi sprout only from dead wood of particular species. Decomposition is not passive decay. It is a competitive and dynamic ecosystem. If you step back, the pattern becomes mathematical. Population sizes fluctuate around resource availability. Predator numbers follow prey abundance with predictable delays. Ecologists model this with equations, Lotka-Volterra dynamics, describing how birth and death rates oscillate together. The forest breathes in data curves as much as in humidity. Nothing truly belongs to itself. Every atom in a newborn gorilla once passed through leaves, through insects, perhaps through a fig tree that fell decades earlier. The rainforest is a molecular carousel. Identity is a temporary arrangement. That may sound poetic, but it is chemically literal. Carbon fixed by photosynthesis becomes muscle, then predator tissue, then microbial respiration, then atmospheric carbon dioxide again. The cycle is relentless and elegant. Humans often fear decomposition. In the rainforest, decomposition is infrastructure. Without it, nutrients would remain locked in dead matter and life would stagnate. Death is not the failure of the system, it is the engine. Observe a single clearing over decades, and you will see it. Collapse, regrowth, competition, succession. The forest renews itself not by avoiding loss, but by metabolizing it. Birth and death are not opposing forces here. They are two ends of the same biological current, flowing, recycling, reshaping. In the rainforest, nothing lasts. And because nothing lasts, everything continues. The rainforest feels ancient and self-sufficient. It is not. Humans have shaped it for thousands of years, sometimes gently, sometimes violently. It begins with logging. Tropical hardwoods are dense, slow-growing, and commercially valuable. Roads are cut into intact forests to extract species such as okume and mahogany. A single road does more than extract trees. It fragments habitat. Sunlight penetrates. Edges dry out. Hunters gain access to previously remote areas. The geometry of the forest changes. Not all logging is equal. Industrial clear-cut logging removes biodiversity on a large scale. Selective logging extracts fewer trees, but still alters the structure of the canopy and microclimates. The ecological consequences are measurable. Changes in species composition, increased fire risk, alteration of carbon storage. Forests are carbon sinks. They absorb more carbon dioxide than they release, reduce tree cover, and that balance shifts. Then there is the bushmeat trade. In many regions of Central Africa, wild meat is both tradition and necessity. Sources of protein can be scarce. Hunting has sustained communities for generations. The problem arises when local subsistence becomes commercial extraction. Improved access through logging roads and growing urban markets increase demand. Large mammals, primates, forest antelopes, even elephants, reproduce slowly. Intense hunting pressures push populations downward. Mining adds another layer. The Congo basin contains cobalt, gold, coltan, minerals embedded in global supply chains. Artisanal mining may begin with small groups using simple tools. Industrial operations scale up dramatically. The forest is cleared, the soil is disturbed. Rivers become clouded with sediments and are sometimes contaminated with mercury or other byproducts. The ecological footprint extends beyond the mine site itself. However, the human story is not only extraction. Indigenous communities such as the Baaka and the Mbuti have lived in these forests for millennia. Their knowledge of plant medicine, animal movement, and seasonal cycles is astonishingly precise. Many traditional practices, rotational harvesting, spiritual taboos that protect certain species, function as conservation mechanisms. Anthropologists and ecologists increasingly recognize that forests under indigenous management often maintain greater biodiversity than those managed externally. Conservation efforts operate at multiple scales. Protected areas such as national parks attempt to safeguard core habitats. International agreements target illegal logging and wildlife trafficking. Satellite monitoring now tracks deforestation almost in real time. Local ranger patrols risk their lives confronting poachers. Community-based conservation programs work to align livelihoods with ecosystem protection, agroforestry, sustainable harvesting, ecotourism. The tension is real. Economic development promises schools, hospitals, roads. Forest preservation protects climate stability and biodiversity. These objectives can clash. Simplistic narratives, villains versus heroes, collapse under scrutiny. Most actors navigate constraints, poverty, global demand, political instability, survival. The future of the rainforest is intertwined with global systems. Smartphones depend on extracted minerals. Furniture markets drive demand for timber. Urban consumption shapes rural landscapes thousands of kilometers away. But there is also cautious optimism. Deforestation rates fluctuate with policy changes. Some degraded areas regenerate, When pressure decreases, carbon financing mechanisms seek to make standing forests economically competitive with cleared land. Human presence is neither purely destructive nor purely protective. It is powerful, and power amplifies intention. The rainforest is not separate from us. It is a mirror, reflecting how intelligently or carelessly we choose to live within complex systems. The Congo Basin is immense, vast enough to make human ambition seem small. Yet scale does not equal invulnerability. Habitat destruction remains the defining pressure. Logging corridors cut the forest into fragments. Mining concessions open clearings that widen into networks. Agricultural expansion advances quietly at the margins. Fragmentation is the hidden danger. Species evolved in a continuous canopy suddenly face isolated pockets of survival. Genetic exchange slows. Edge effects dry, and warm interiors that were once humid. A forest does not need to disappear entirely to be fundamentally altered. The collapse of biodiversity is rarely announced dramatically. It thins. Large mammals disappear first, slow reproducers, high energy needs, attractive targets. Then specialized species begin to fade. Pollinators tied to a single flowering tree, amphibians dependent on precise humidity levels. Remove enough threads, and the web loses tension. Ecological systems tolerate disturbance, but they are not infinitely elastic. Climate amplifies what is at stake. The Congo rainforest stores billions of tons of carbon in biomass and peatlands. When trees fall and soils are disturbed, stored carbon re-enters the atmosphere. Reducing canopy cover can alter regional rainfall patterns, creating feedback loops that intensify dryness. The forest helps regulate its own climate, and, indirectly, ours. Disrupt the regulator, and variability increases. And yet, collapse is not inevitable. Conservation science has matured. Satellite monitoring detects illegal clearing within days, and indigenous land rights correlate strongly with lower deforestation rates. Protected areas, when properly enforced, stabilize wildlife populations. Reforestation and sustainable forestry models demonstrate that economic activity and ecological integrity do not have to be mutually exclusive. Hope here is not sentimental, it is strategic. The Congo does not forgive weakness, but it rewards balance.